Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. How are you doing? It's Friday. Woohoo! Most people are thrilled that it's Friday. I'm excited that it's Friday. It's the end of the week. I've been busy all week. And tomorrow morning, I'm actually doing a webinar for people in India. I've been working on this webinar for the last few weeks now, and tomorrow it'll be exciting. I'm going to be meeting some colleagues and from India, so it's awesome. Who is watching me? Say hi or write your name in the chat box. I'd love to know who's viewing. Today I am going to be talking about strengths, how to discover your strengths. Now, a couple of days ago, I talked about my first job. I was trying to get to the point that even if we have several first jobs, and for whatever reason we got into those jobs, we might not have liked them, but we still learned something from those first jobs. So today I want to focus more on strengths, and this isn't exactly the what are your strengths question at an interview, although I'll talk a little bit about that. Hi Anna, how are you? Nice for you to join us, to join me, I should say. So I want to talk about strengths, and oftentimes when we are young children, we are naturally inclined to do something. Now, when I was a young child, I was a creative child. I would make things with nothing. I would make dolls. I would sew. I would knit. And I would record things. Yeah, back at the time, back in the day, I had a tape recorder and I would record stories. I would use my imagination to make up things. And I didn't know at the time that it was something that I enjoyed doing, but it was something that I did. I just occupied my time by being creative. So one of the ways to discover your strength, thanks, Anna. One of the ways to discover your strengths is by taking a look at things that are natural for you, things that are fun for you, things that are effortless for you, and maybe even things that you did naturally when you were a child. When I was a child, I remember grade 4, grade 5, I would play teacher. Now, I have to kind of admit that at the time, way back then, women or girls would be encouraged to do certain types of jobs, teacher, nursing. That was it at the time. Okay, so we have to keep that in mind as well. Hi, Dorianne. It's really nice to see you. I know we've chatted quite a few times. So even as a child, I naturally, without being told you're going to be a teacher, I was naturally inclined to teach. And, that's what I ended up by doing. I'm a teacher, but I'm also a career coach. I'm your back in the groove again coach, and I've done teaching at the college. I ended up by doing teaching at the college. I ended up by learning that I didn't want to teach young children. How did I learn that? Well, although I love teaching, and it's definitely a strength of mine, right after I graduated from my master's program, I ended up with a one-year contract at a college. And I noticed how much I loved it. So it wasn't just the teaching of it that I loved. I loved the atmosphere, and I noticed that. I felt energized in that type of environment. So, these are things we have to keep in mind as we're thinking of our strengths and as we're thinking of the perfect environment for our ideal job. We want to notice what we are naturally inclined to feel. In my case, I noticed that I preferred college than teaching children. And it was just a bit of an energy thing. It was so weird. And it was almost, it was fun. It was easy for me, at the time. And it was when I was younger too. So one of the ways to discover your strength is by thinking back to your younger days. And this could be, when you're younger, meaning maybe in primary school or even high school. What was natural for you? What was natural for you? And so give me some ideas, guys. What was natural for you when you were younger? And I don't want to say younger means 20 or younger means a certain age. We'll just use the general sense of younger. Tell me, what was natural for you when you were younger? Give me a few ideas. Write it in the chat box. What was natural for you when you were younger? What came easy to you? What was something you enjoyed doing for you when you were younger? Another thing that was natural for me, to be honest with you, was dancing. I love dancing. Okay, so to sing, right? Now, oftentimes our strengths can be used in different ways. And I remember seeing your picture of karaoke. I love singing. So you see how I see, taking care of babies. Right. And what did you end up by doing later on? Because I know you were a teacher, Anna. What did you end up by doing with these skills of singing and with these skills of enjoying taking care of babies? What did you end up by doing with this? So interesting. So, I incorporate some of my strengths like singing, and I love dancing too. I incorporate that in my teaching. You see how some strengths, I might not have gone into being a singer, or I might not have gone into being a dancer, but I could use these strengths to sing and to sing in a classroom or to sing in a workshop, to get people energized using these natural abilities that I have. So I want you to be thinking in that way. What is natural to you? I love that. Yes, being a teacher and teaching language through music. Absolutely. You see, and that's a perfect example. Reading and understanding the language. Yes, it's a perfect, and to be honest with you, Anna, I've done that. I also teach English as a foreign language, and one of my students loves Taylor Swift. So guess what we did? We sang a Taylor Swift song. It was so much fun. So you can see how what comes natural can be either used to find an ideal job, or can be used to be integrated into your work. I mentioned a few weeks ago that I enjoyed dancing, and in one of my groups, I'm trying to get dancing on Fridays. And it was so natural for me to put, I think so too. I think so too. It was so natural for me to put on music at 4:30 in the afternoon, making sure all the clients were gone, and coming out of my office and dancing and inviting my friends, my colleagues to dance with me. It was natural. So you can see how some strengths, although I might not be a dancer, I might not work as a dancer. I like how what's happening around my hair here. I might not work as a dancer, I might not work as a singer, but I'm using my natural, effortless abilities to provide pleasure to help other people. So I want you to be thinking along those lines. So that's one way. What comes natural to you? That's how you can discover your strength. The other thing I want to ask is, suggest is to ask people that you know. That's tip number 2. Ask people that you know. If you're not sure what you're good at or what your strength is, start asking people or start listening to what people are telling you. I'm just going to share what Anna wrote here. She used to let her students choose the artist. Yeah, of course. This is great because that way it's more about them and not so much about you, but then you can also be teaching what they love. And of course, if students choose what they want, they're more apt to listen. They're more apt to learn, right? It's a great way, of course. So ask your friends, ask your colleagues for feedback. Now, this is not always obvious because, people aren't naturally inclined to say, hey, you're really good at this. So you might have to ask, can I ask you a question? I'm trying to discover or to know a little bit more about what my strengths are. Have you noticed what I'm really good at? Are there certain things about my personality that you think is really different than other people? Thank you, Anna. I'm going to share that as well. You went on to university and you got your master's. I think that's awesome. We do have a lot of things in common. We do have a lot of things in common, that's for sure. So how do you think you could ask people for feedback, to ask people what you're good at? What would be one way you could do that? One way is by simply asking. During a meeting with a supervisor, you might say, may I ask you a question? I've been working here for a year or 2 years now. What have you noticed about me that is different than another employee? What have you noticed about me that's really outstanding, or that brings positivity, or that brings a benefit to our work environment? Because sometimes you need to ask, but sometimes you need to listen and you need to know, why are people coming to you? Now, one strength that I didn't really know I had at the time was that I was able to provide suggestions and advice to my colleagues. My colleagues would come to me and say, hey, Linda, I got a question for you. What do you think about this and that? So I eventually became a mentor. My colleagues saw me as a resource, as a source of information. And, after a while, I'm going, that's interesting. I didn't know I was really good at that, but I guess I am. So you might want to start paying attention to, why are people approaching you? What kind of questions are they asking you and not asking somebody else? Right? That's another way of learning what your strengths are. So can you give me some examples? I know we've got a few people on the line now. What are some things that people are asking you about? Give me some examples. Why are people approaching you? Whether it's at work or whether it's your friends, whatever, doesn't matter. Why are they coming to you with certain things? What are those things? Give me some examples, guys or gals. I'll give you another example here. I remember a few years ago, quite a few years ago, when I used to work at the Centre de Service Communautaire Vanier, that was a Vanier Community Service Center. My boss, the director, asked me at the last minute to present something to teenagers that were going to be coming to our office. At the last minute, she says, can you do something for me? We've got a group of children. Well, there weren't children. Well, she did say children, actually. We got a group of children coming to our office, and I wondered, can you do a presentation for them? And I'm thinking, hang on, I know I could do it, but I have a few questions. How old are they? Why are they coming to the office? And so I was able to, because I have a teaching background, I was able to quickly figure out, if you notice that, quickly figure out what to do and how to do it. Because that facilitation skills, these facilitation skills are easy for me. That's a strength that I have. So what do you notice about you that's so easy, that's so natural, that your colleagues or friends are going to ask you to do something? Right? That's another way of identifying your strength. I'm wondering if you can give me some examples. What are some of those things that people are asking you to do? What are they? Give me some examples. I gave you a couple of examples. So the other thing too is, so what problems are people asking you to solve? In this case, my manager was asking me to set up something fairly quickly. In other words, she didn't have time to do it. She had a problem. She needed to find somebody at the last minute who was going to facilitate a group of teenagers or young kids that were actually 12, 13, 11, 12, 13. So she saw that ability in me. Now, she didn't tell me at that time, you have a strength in blah, blah, blah. But by her trusting me in doing something, it showed me that she recognized something in me. So oftentimes we might not recognize we have that strength, right? We might not know or be aware of that we have that strength, but people come to us to solve problems. So that's another way for you to identify what your strengths are. So what comes natural to you, that's one way of identifying what your strengths are. What people are asking you to do, what problems people are asking you to solve. These are other ways to identifying the strength that you have. Now, how does this relate to an interview question such as, what are your strengths? So I'm going to suggest here two different things, and I have to think about this. Number one, if I know what comes natural to me and it's related to the job, then I will say, well, one of my strengths is that I get along great with people. I can quickly respond to change. I could quickly, I'm flexible. So, if you ask me to do something at the last minute, I'm able to do that, and I will give an example. I'm really good with being creative. You ask me to try to solve a problem, I'm really good at that. And so we have to think of different ways that our strengths, our natural strengths, are the ones that have been the ones that we've learned to develop, how that is useful. So here we go. Anna says, they say I'm a good listener. Interesting. And that they feel better after talking with me, like I'm reassuring. This is great. This is great. So, and you may not have known this about you. Now, sometimes we know this, but it's really nice to hear it. You're a great listener, and I feel so good after listening to you. That is a hint, right? That's a hint. I guess I'm good at listening. And so you would notice that, if you've been told you're really good at listening, and I feel really good, you reassure me. If you've been told this, then you're going to want to look for other evidence as well. Other places, other people, other circumstances where your natural ability to listen comes in. And then you're going to go, yeah, I am really good at listening. It's validating. And so, of course, when you then go to an interview, you've received enough proof that your listening skills are very useful and beneficial to clients and maybe your coworkers and so on. So you want to know what's natural, and acknowledge what's natural. And you want to kind of, you want to validate what other people see in you as well. And here's another strength, never giving up. And I know this. You've told me about this. You've told me about this. Now, what I could add to that is that sometimes we don't know we have that strength. You know, the first time we don't give up, we think it's just, well, this is the way it is. You know, we might have learned that from our parents, but maybe the circumstances made it that you couldn't give up. And we don't really know that that's a strength at the beginning. But over time, you build that muscle. You build that muscle of resilience. You build that muscle of not giving up. And you then start recognizing that, especially because I know in your case, Anna, other people have also told you that, right? Have other people told you that as well? That you're a survivor, that you don't give up? Exactly, right. You see, so people see that in you as well. So it's a muscle that you've built over time, but that's also validated by other people. And I think this is when we know what's natural or what's learned because of circumstances. And it's validated because other people see that in us. So those are our strengths. And this is what, when you go to an interview, some of these strengths will be very, very, very beneficial to the work environment. Now, I have to tell you that when I went for my interview at the, let me share this. I thought that fighting was natural because I had no option. Yeah, so it's a natural ability. It's a natural instinct, isn't it? So that tells you how natural it is. But some people give up, Anna. Some people give up. Some people, when they think they have no option, they don't fight, right? Remember the fight, flight, or freeze, which is, you know, part of the stress model. You could fight, you could take off and not even think about it, or you could freeze and not know what to do. That's right. There are always other options. So when I went for my interview many years ago and they asked me what my strengths were, I shared them what my work-related strengths were because, you know, when we're sharing our strength in a particular job, we share what is relevant to that position. And I don't think I told them that I love dancing and singing, although I might have, but it wouldn't have been that first strength that I mentioned to them because it wouldn't have been exactly related to my position as employment consultant. I was an employment consultant for years, right? That's one of the reasons I call myself the Back in the Groove Again coach is because, you know, part of what I do is help women get back in their groove. And part of that is helping them find their ideal job or their ideal career. So I might not have mentioned that strength, that natural skill of mine to dance and to sing right away. But because, and I can't remember if I did or not, to be honest with you, because that was many years ago. I think now I would, but not the first one, because if I know the employer, if I've researched the employer, like in my case, it was a community service. And community agencies want to know that their employees are giving, are naturally inclined to want to help, and like to have fun. So I probably would have mentioned that. Oh, and by the way, another strength of mine is that I love singing and I love dancing. So don't be surprised if you hear me singing at work and maybe even dancing at work. And that shows them, right, a little bit of my personality. Now, if I'm applying for an employment consultant job, I probably not the first strength. I wouldn't say, well, one of my strengths is dancing and singing. No, that wouldn't be my first strength. But I probably would feel comfortable mentioning it towards the end of my answer. So I hope that was helpful. I wanted to share with you some tips on how to discover your strengths. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Anna. I'm not sure who else was listening, but thank you again for being here. And I just want to mention to you that I do have a great video series for you. It is available on my website at www.backinthegrooveagain.com. Let me see if I could share my screen with you now. Hang on a second. Just a second. I want to see if I could share my screen with you to show you what's available for you right now. There. So you could go to my website, Back in the Groove Again, and sign up for a 5 Secrets to Discover Your Ideal Career. It's a great video series that I put together to help you identify your ideal career. And on that particular, there's Anna's testimonial. During that video series, you're going to learn 5 different ways that you could discover your ideal career. All right, everybody. If there are any questions, please do add them to this video, and I'll gladly answer your questions as well. All right, everybody. Have a good weekend. Bye. Thanks, Anna. Thanks, everybody. See you soon. Thank you.